Okay. And so another thing I've noticed is that, when you talk about the goals that are there, and then I see that there is a certain retailer service level that you have to maintain. So it looks like that there are some standard KPIs that you have to comply with, or, some goals in place that we
Yeah.
have to meet these targets. So can you just tell me about all these KPIs against which you have to, achieve your goals?
Yeah. So our biggest one on the inbound side is service level. So that's basically the excuse me, the percentage of product that um, that a store is able to order and then that we have in stock. So we'll carry an
Mhm.
item and they can order it, but it will tell them that it's not in stock, and that's per piece, not per line. So our goal for that is the 96.7% service level. So
Mhm.
our role on the inbound side is that everything that we get in, every truck that we get in, that we're able to immediately receive the product, basically receive it and stock it as quickly as possible,
Mhm.
because we can run into, if there's a backlog of trailers, things like that, we're not going to get the product put away, so that service level will drop because there's no availability for the stores to order it. Um, there's
Yeah.
a little twist in there because if the corporate buying department isn't on top of it as well, that could also lower it. So
Yeah.
as internally for our distribution center, we just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can, to get those done, or expedite certain loads. And that's where I put in there. I work with corporate traffic. So if they say your applet is full right now for Tuesday, but we have a load coming in that's going to affect service level, that's where we adjust
Mhm.
our receiving or adjust the labor in order to meet that, so that we can get that adjusted. That's the biggest one um, is service level, for our retailers. Then
Mhm.
there's other ones. So there's an a quality goal, which is kind of more
Okay.
to the outbound side, but it could also it also the inbound side also affects it. Um,
Mhm.
a quality goal of 0.1% error rate for what we send to our the retailers,
Uh-huh.
and an internal inventory movement rate of a goal of 0.225%, and that's any adjustments where we, you know, can't find the product for whatever reason, they have lost product, or we have to take it off of inventory, or if we then find that we have extra and we have to add it to inventory, that all goes
Mhm.
into the overall inventory movement. Um,
Okay.
so those, and then of course safety. Safety is pretty much number one. Again, it's internal, but I think because Ace is a co-op and not, like franchised, that it's really
Yeah.
big as far as how our distribution center does, because anytime we go over budget, it's essentially being paid by the retailers in the co-op type of environment. So um, safety, and our safety um, goal of 2.0 OSHA um, injury rate, which, because of OSHA standards, we can't. We a long time ago we used to say, okay, our goal is to have no more than 4 OSHA injuries, but based on the
Mhm.
fact you can't incentivize OSHA injuries anymore, it's based on the OSHA rate, which is just the number of OSHAs that you have per man hours worked. Um, so
Mhm.
that's another one. We don't really have we have like a BLP, but these other ones are kind of what fuel that more than anything. So that, and then also, like I said, the two, um, expense to sales and wages as a percent of sales. So I guess,
Okay, that's perfect. Mhm.
yeah, I think I hit all of them for the most part.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so another thing is that, when we talk about the service level or the safety score that is, that has been predefined by OSHA, or the quality standard that is there. So, are you people currently achieving all those targets, or there are instances where you overachieve on them as well?
So the quality, the retail, what we call like basically retailer quality, we're overachieving on that. We're doing better um, than goal. The inbound or the internal, what we call just inventory movement, which is more internal, we're um, beating that one. Um, right now, we're not beating our OSHA rate. We've had a lot of injuries
Okay.
this year. Um,
Mhm.
and also right now for the year, we were not meeting our expense to sales and wages as a percent of sales.
Okay.
For this particular year, it's kind of a lot of it has to do with the buying and how they've changed the way that they've bought. We used to have just in time inventory, and now they're doing more safety stock, and it's kind of,
Mhm.
we're the only center out of the 14 ACE centers that has basically no space left because everybody's growing so
Mhm.
much and there's so many stores. So we've kind of been hindered by that. We used to be a few years back kind of the flagship of the retail support centers, and we're always in front. And unfortunately, lately we've kind of had our struggles due to that fact, the fact that we don't really have space, and it hinders everything, productivity. We need more people, so training, everything kind of goes down. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so this year not hitting them as well as we should be.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, great. And so, are there any employee satisfaction scores in place that you have to look as well?
Yes. So we have quarterly the employee satisfaction and engagement scores are done quarterly, um,
Hmm.
and those um, the I'm trying to recall because this was somewhat recent. Like I think we started this last year where it was more formal like this. That it was
Hmm.
our goal is a 3.0, and I can't recall exactly what that number means, but I do know
Okay.
that we've been over that number. However, it is that their rate, it's how they rate all the scores, I guess, essentially. With basically
Uh,
satisfied, dissatisfied, whatever. So our goal is to be at least a 3.0. And so since the inception of it, which, like I said, this formal rating, which started last year, every quarter we've been above. So we've exceeded
uh-huh.
every quarter since we've started it.
Okay, great. And so, do you have any number in place for that you could tell me that on average you were or achieving this number?
Um, so it's on a basically it's on a scale of 1 to 4, and our goal is to be 3. So our last
Yeah,
engagement score was a 3.25, which
great.
would have been from which because it always lags, so it would have been from the first quarter of this year.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's great. And so then, do you have to create some sort of SOPs as well, like standard operating procedures for the warehouse?
Um, Not really. They're kind of already in place. We did. I was part of the team that kind of implemented we kind of went kind of in a somewhat in a lean direction. So there was standard work that I was part of the team to implement and
Mm-hmm.
um, put together the standard work in the 9 box for our different departments, and things
Okay.
like that. So I was part of that. We don't have a specific requirement for having people like lean Six Sigma certified or anything like that, but we do kind of follow those guidelines. So as far as like
Okay.
those SOPs, there are kind of already predetermined what I guess we call best practices, but
Yeah.
we kind of try to take it a step further with that standard work initiative, um, in order to kind of make everything more uniform.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, great. And then you have mentioned manage inbound vendor loads to labor in order to increase retailer service levels. So, what does this inbound vendor loads to labor mean here?
So that's kind of like what I was talking about, how certain um, a certain load that comes in may take priority over another one based on what's on it, because
Hmm.
that may be where we're missing our service level. So we get I have to review reports of everything that's coming in, and it'll have a breakdown of what's coming in and what percentage of our, or how many points of a percentage it is currently affecting our service level. So I may have
Okay.
gotten in, I may have 10 trailers today, that I'm trying to get through, but I have to take one early, or I have to move the labor, essentially beef up the receiving department, um,
Uh-huh.
in order to make sure I get that trailer in and received, since it has a bigger hit on our service level than the other ones that we have. So that's kind of like a daily, I guess one of the daily tasks where I have to review what is coming in and the impact that it has on our service level, and then kind of adjust it from there.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. And so then, any other process in this particular role of yours that you were able to improve, or any way you were able to improve the way operations were handled?
Um, Not necessarily from like an operating procedure standpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
did adjust the way, um I adjusted the way that we have our scheduling for our specialists, so that there's a better, um so essentially it's a better flow of um freight coming in. So we used to have a very small second shift, um
Mm-hmm.
that was only stocking. So what I had done was basically move the labor pool where the majority of the stocking was done on that night shift, and all of the
Mm-hmm.
receiving was done on the first shift, instead of both. It used to, when I came into this role, it was both. We had both receiving and stocking kind of equally on first and second shift. So the thought process, was that there would be better flow. So the receiving department is all on first shift, and they receive all the trucks on the first shift and fill up the
Mm-hmm.
entire dock so that it's ready to go. And then second shift comes in with, I think we more than doubled the amount that we had on second shift to pull them off first, so that they come
Uh-huh.
on second shift and they just put everything away. And since there's no order filling on second shift, there's a lot less congestion in the aisles, and they're able to put away a lot more than they were on
Mm-hmm.
first shift. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been a lot better as far as inbound flow is concerned, um, because we bring it in all in at once, and then they put it all away at once, instead of trying um, to pick spots to receive into, and then kind of picks areas to stock. It was really kind
Yeah.
of congested. So I guess that's something that I did, and it was more kind of a movement of labor than anything.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And so, did it also improve or increase the percentage of incoming freight, because now they were in a position to move it away in a timely manner?
Yes, yeah. So, um, and it kind of came from that, because our receiving department was getting backlogged where we weren't able to receive as many trailers. So we'd have 25 trailers on the applet for the day, and they weren't able to get through them all.
Mhm.
And so that basically got us out of that, kind of dug us out of our trailer backup where we had
Mm.
been backed up. I think our worst was just like under 70 trailers where we were behind. So of course that's affecting service
Oh,
level as well. So by doing this, it cleared that, and since then we haven't had that same issue since they're able to flow. It's able to flow a lot better.
great. That's great. Okay, perfect. And so, any other process or procedure that you were able to revamp to, to improve the way things were being handled?
Um, not no, not that I can think of
Uh-huh.
off the top of my head.
Okay, no problem with that because
Yeah.
now you have my email address as well. So if you later recall something, then just send me an email and we can coordinate
Okay.
that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great, great. And so you have mentioned these seven supervisors, two admins, and 96 warehouse specialists. So these were all working under you, like they were reporting to you?
Yes, and actually,
Okay.
it's that the high. I think that was just what I had at the time. The high that I had was I had gotten up to 105 warehouse specialists for the year. But like I said, since there's a big seasonality swing, that was kind of the top. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's seven supervisors across two shifts. I have four on first shift and then three on second. And then
Okay.
the admins and specialists all working directly for me.
Okay, perfect. And so, any other thing from this experience of yours that you think we haven't discussed so far?
No, I mean there were different things that I had, different project teams
Mm-hmm.
and things that I had been on not under the current inbound warehouse or inbound side that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would be relevant to put on there or not. Like
Uh-huh.
when I was like on the outbound side where I had under outbound operations, we implemented voice pick. Um, and I was chosen to basically head up the project with the corporate engineers. So Colorado of the 14
Mm-hmm.
RSCs was the first one to train and implement on this new system that we were using to order fill. And then
Okay.
after that, since it was such a done so well in our retail support center, I actually I went to two other distribution centers to do the same thing, to train and roll it out in their distribution centers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was part of that team as well. Um,
Okay. So, for like,
uh,
what was the benefit that you were able to observe as a result of implementing that system?
the benefit of the system, or
Yeah.
so the benefit of that system, because our previous system was a touch screen, so it was a hands-free type of system where the system tells you that you have an earpiece, and system tells you what bay location to go to pick from, instead of having to read it off a screen and then go back.
Uh-huh.
So we had that other system for like just over a decade. So the biggest part of, I think, implementing it was the change management that came along with a lot of the veterans. The newer folks that came
Mm-hmm.
in, they just learned the new system. So it was kind of
Okay.
getting the longer term people in on it. And kind of how I did it
Yeah.
was to get the people that I knew were going to be the most vocal. And I actually had them in the first class and went and spent a lot more time on them, getting them in so that,
Mm-hmm.
and happy with the system, and making sure that they understood it and liked it, showing them the benefits and how it would increase their standards. That way,
Yeah.
because they were the ones that were going to go out on the floor and talk about it, whether it was good or bad. So in doing
Yeah.
that, it kind of spread the word for me as well that the system was the system was better and beneficial, and it wasn't just a cost saving measure for the company, but it would also improve their productivity since they get an incentive, monetary incentive, if they do better than their 100%.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And so you were mentioning that this project was on the outbound side. So are we talking about your outbound operations manager role?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. But then we'll get back to that, later because next I wanted to discuss the inbound operations
Oh,
manager role first. That was the
oh,
next role.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of
Okay.
where I was saying sorry, I didn't know if you were talking about everything if we were done with everything on there or just the warehouse manager.
Yeah, it
Um,
was because this call is meant to discuss everything that is there on the resume.
Gotcha. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so the inbound manager, like I said, is kind of just a reduced role of what I
Mm-hmm.
do now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it didn't include the budgeting, the forecasting, um, the 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 KPIs weren't as big of a um, didn't play as big of a role in my daily work. It was more
Mm-hmm.
just the overseeing the daily activities of the supervisors and the warehouse specialists as far as um, the like kind of more of like the training and things like that we discussed. So it's basically like I said, just a lesser role. The warehouse manager is kind of just all of that bigger picture thinking stuff on top of everything kind of that we already went over.
Okay.
So I don't
Okay.
know if it's
And
better to not even separate those two.
oh, okay. If you think that it can work that way, then it's okay.
Yeah, because
Because
I
Mhm.
I I kind of got it was the retail support manager, my immediate boss kind of wanted to get me more involved. So it's a step up, but it was still
Yeah.
basically, like I said, a lot of what I was already doing, just more involved in everything else. So it was a pay grade increase and all that kind of stuff, but still
Uh,
a lot of the same basic functions.
okay. Okay. That's understandable. But from this one, I would like to know about this that you establish vendor relationships along with corporate buyers to expedite movement of inventory into the warehouse. So, in terms of relationship development, are we talking about establishing your relationship with the vendors or the relationship between the vendor and the buyers?
So the relationship kind of both. There
Okay.
was the relationship between that was kind of the trifecta, the buyers, the vendors, and us, where
Mhm.
we were, if we saw quality issues, things like that coming from the vendors, we would all, be on like a conference call to discuss, hey, these are the issues that we're seeing coming from you. Which, every time that we have a problem where they're not sending us the correct item or whatever, that's going to take us longer to get the product in and posted correctly. Um,
Mhm.
so there was that where it included the buyer. Then there was also um, the relationship where specifically between the vendor and our distribution center, where
Mhm.
and it was more kind of along the lines of logistically with ensuring that we could get them in kind of, and that was more along the lines of the applet that we use for getting loads in, kind of along the same lines of ensuring the service level stays high, where we may
Yeah.
contact the vendor specifically because we can see where a PO has already been cut in the system, and instead of having to go through the buyer and have the buyer contact them and back and forth. A lot of times we would contact the vendor directly and ask, hey, can we get this specific PO expedited since our distribution center is low on this product, because the buyer for that specific vendor will buy for all 14 distribution
Uh-huh.
centers. So sometimes we would
Okay.
just go straight to them so that it would there wouldn't be, it would be basically between us and the vendor on that side. So more the vendor issue, the vendor quality issues, things like that, we would always include the buyer in on, just because they may be seeing the same thing in other centers, just so that they're aware of it too.
Okay, great. So can we say that you were sort of mediating between the two parties?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you could say that.
Like you were bridging the communication gap between them.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, I'm saying that you were bridging the communication gap between them.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. Because a lot of times they wouldn't know. The buyer wouldn't know if we went directly to the vendor, or vice versa. If I guess that'd be a good way to put it. That if I didn't mediate the discussions.
Okay, great. And so here another thing you have mentioned is, determine areas needing cost reduction and program improvement. So in terms of cost reduction, like were these some specific strategies you implemented to help reduce cost?
No,